So Daniel Dubois retains his WBA regular world heavyweight title with a third-round TKO victory over Kevin Lerena. Now, going into this fight, I'd watched a few of Lerena's bouts. I'd looked at his box rec, and I think I did make a video about it a few weeks ago when the fight was originally announced, and I said that Lerena looks like a decent fighter. He was pretty good at cruiserweight, not elite by any means, but he was definitely competent. But I still expected Dubois to win, which of course he did, but not without getting dropped 3 times. Now, I was hoping to see some improvement with Dubois because he's had more time with Shane McGuigan. And by improvement, I mean increased flexibility, fluidity, etc. Because he is a very stiff, upright type of fighter, very Bruno-esque. But that's not what I saw here. Dubois got clipped in the first round with a left hand from Lerena, high on the head. His back leg gave way, and he went down. And there was no injury, by the way, because Dubois confirmed it in a post-fight interview. He just got hit with a shot on top of the head. It scrambled his senses, and his back leg gave out. And it's not the first time that back leg has given out for Dubois when he's been buzzed by a shot. If you go back and watch his fight against Richard Lartey, it was at the start of the second round or near the start of the second round. Lartey gets hit low, so the referee gives him some time to recover. When the action resumes, he catches Dubois with a right hand, and Dubois' right leg gives way. Go back and watch it. You'll see in the exact same way it gave way against Lerena, it gave way against Richard Lartey. So that just seems to be the way Dubois reacts, the way his body reacts when he gets hit with a good shot, at least in a certain spot on his head. His back leg tends to give way. And he didn't get that back leg back until, I want to say, the midpoint or later on in the second round. It was basically 3 knockdowns caused by 1 punch, because the second and third knockdowns in the first round, no punches actually landed. It was just, Dubois going down because his leg was so weak. And I guess he didn't want to get pinned in a corner, with a weak leg where an opponent can just reel off shots at him. And obviously you need the strength in both your legs to be able to generate power. So Dubois felt it wise to just take a knee instead, which was probably the right thing to do. In any event, the fight proceeds, you go into the second round, and Lerena isn't pressing the action the way you would expect. Because again, he's just had the guy down 3 times. Surely you'd want to jump on him. You wouldn't want to allow him to get his legs back. But that's exactly what Kevin Lerena did, inexplicably. He took his foot completely off the gas, and he allowed Dubois to recover. So questions have to be asked about that. Was it just a case of him maybe being surprised by his own success? Was it a case of him not expecting to have to chase Dubois down? Because Dubois was moving around at this point, boxing on the back foot, and doing so quite awkwardly, right? Back foot boxing doesn't come naturally to him. So was it that, or was it something else in terms of why Lerena didn't force the issue? Anyway, going into round 3, Dubois managed to get his legs back, was sitting down on his shots more, and then he caught Lerena with a straight right hand through the guard. Lerena didn't appear to be desperately hurt from the shot, but he did go down, got up quickly, and then Dubois went in and finished the job with some big punches. But again, in the run-up to that knockdown in the third round, Lerena wasn't forcing the issue. He was giving Dubois all the time and space he needed to recover. Very, very strange indeed. Not sure what you guys think of it, but it was a head-scratcher for me. So, in summary, Dubois came through adversity, but his opponent really allowed him to come through adversity. After the fight, Dubois was saying, I've got the heart of a lion and I came through and whatever. And he's obviously saying that in response to people questioning his heart after he quit against Joe Joyce. And yes, he came through tough moments, but as I say, Lerena allowed him to get through those tough moments. It wasn't like he had someone on his case after dropping him. No. So for me, the jury's still out on Daniel Dubois' mental fortitude, his intestinal fortitude. The jury's still out for me. And as far as any improvements in terms of fluidity and whatever, I didn't see much. Maybe because of the knockdown, it kind of threw him off his game and we didn't get to see some of the things that he's been working on with Shane McGuigan. I don't know. All I can tell you is what I saw. And what I saw was pretty much the same old Daniel Dubois. Upright, stiff, and his weight as well. He said that he'd lost quite a bit of weight going into this fight, but he turned up on the scales at 240 pounds, which is pretty much exactly what he always weighs. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Maybe kidology? Who knows? When Lawrence Okolie first hooked up with Shane McGuigan, I saw the improvement in fluidity almost immediately, particularly in the Krzysztof Glowaczki fight. But with Daniel Dubois, I haven't seen that. Maybe he just doesn't have the biomechanics to become more fluid, or maybe his brain is not wired in the right way. And if it isn't possible to make him more fluid and what have you, then he's going to need to learn a clinch game. Just like we saw with Josh Kelly in his win over Troy Williamson. He showed a very improved, vastly improved clinch game in that fight, which allowed him obviously to slow down the pace, and it allowed him to pace himself over the course of 12 rounds. Contrast that with when Josh Kelly fought Avanesian. He didn't start clinching against Avanesian until he was already starting to get tired. And he did so almost out of desperation. Whereas against Troy Williamson, no, it was strategic. He established the clinch right from round one. You see, that's obviously something he'd been working on in the gym with his trainer, Adam Booth. Dubois is going to need to develop those kind of skills as well, I think. The clinch game. Because he is so upright and robotic. If somebody really puts it on him, he's going to need to learn how to slow it all down. And from what I've seen of him in his career so far, he really hasn't developed that kind of clinch game yet. And I know it's not pretty. I don't like clinching, and I certainly don't advocate excessive clinching because that's illegal. But a certain amount of clinching is permitted, and it's very effective from a strategic standpoint. And moving forward, all of the contenders in the heavyweight division should be falling over themselves to try and fight Daniel Dubois right now. And yeah, he only has a regular WBA belt, but that regular WBA belt gives you a guaranteed shot at the proper WBA belt. Dubois is clearly still green, and he's clearly much more beatable than the other champions, Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. So anyone who's a heavyweight contender right now that has any sense at all will be targeting this young man and trying to get a fight with him ASAP. Dylan White, he should be trying to do that. AJ, Andy Ruiz, Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz. Unless you've already got a mandatory shot for one of the other champions, then you should be targeting Dubois. Seriously, I've got no idea why there aren't more fighters calling him out and saying they want to fight him and putting pressure, public pressure, and pressure on the promoters to try and get Daniel Dubois in the ring. I think that Dylan White surely is going to look at this and say, you know what? I fancy that Dubois fight again now. Even though Dylan White has looked vulnerable himself, well, been very vulnerable, right? Been knocked out badly in recent fights. But Daniel Dubois is so green that I think it's a risk worth taking. I said this before the Kevin Lerena fight. I said it's a risk worth taking for Dylan White to get in there with Daniel Dubois in terms of if he wants a title shot. If Dylan White is only concerned about money, then of course, take the Anthony Joshua fight instead. You get paid way more than you get paid fighting Dubois. If he really wants another crack at becoming world champion, Dubois is the way to go. Same for all the other contenders out there. That's the way to go. Because this guy has not found himself yet. And who's to say he ever will find himself? You know, some fighters never do. Some fighters look impressive at a certain level, but once they step up, there's just something missing. Is Dubois one of those guys? Will he always have just something missing? And when I say something missing, I don't even mean from a technical or physical standpoint necessarily. More from a mental and personality standpoint. Maybe there's just something missing with this guy. I'm not writing him off just yet, but I am not seeing the kind of improvements that I would want to see, particularly after all this time he's had with Shane McGuigan. Not seeing the kind of improvements that I'd be looking for in terms of feeling hopeful for his future. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And as far as his punch resistance, well, it's heavyweight. Tyson Fury's been dropped by small guys in the past. Steve Cunningham, Nevin Pikage. So that in and of itself, Dubois getting dropped by Lerena isn't a massive red flag. But it's the fact he's getting hit so clean so early. It's not like he went in there reckless, the way Tyson Fury did in his younger days. As I mentioned, in those fights against Steve Cunningham and Nevin Pikage, he went in there reckless and hot-headed. Dubois didn't do that against Lerena. He was very measured, but because he's so upright and he's not the fastest guy in the world, his positioning ain't always the best. And therefore, he was caught with a shot early in a fight, which, against an opponent like this, you really shouldn't be getting caught with. I mean, you look at Anthony Joshua, who we all criticize, we all critique, right? In terms of his, let's say, lack of skill in certain areas, lack of technique in certain areas, lack of urgency, right? AJ wasn't getting caught with shots like that in the first round of the Usyk rematch. And that's against Usyk, who's way better than Kevin Lerena, faster, more capable of landing shots on you early in a fight than Lerena is. Yet AJ wasn't getting caught with them kind of shots in the early rounds against Usyk in the rematch. Dubois is getting caught by a guy who couldn't lace Usyk's boots in the first round with shots like that. So, not a good look from a defensive standpoint. And as I say, when he does get clipped with a shot and get buzzed, his right leg seems to give out. Happened against Latte, happened again here. It will probably happen again in the future. And because Daniel Dubois is so upright, and he really does make Anthony Joshua look like Tyson Fury in terms of fluidity. That's how stiff he is. Because he's so upright, I think that he's actually susceptible to a good pressure fighter. Somebody who can get underneath Daniel Dubois' punches. Somebody with a bit of speed who can get underneath the shots and come up with hooks and uppercuts, I think would be an absolute nightmare for Daniel Dubois. We've seen him beat one way. Joe Joyce had the height and reach on him and beat him behind a jab. I think there's another way to beat Daniel Dubois. I think, as I say, if you can get underneath his shots, because he doesn't vary his height, The shots are all coming on the same plane, The shots are all coming at the same height, basically. He's not varying his height and moving his upper body much, etc. So if you can just get underneath and then come up with shots, I think there's success to be had there. Anyway, I'll leave it to you guys to discuss in the comment section below, and I'll catch you on the next video. I'm out. If you're tired of the biased narratives and mass censorship on mainstream platforms, and you want to be part of a community of critical thinkers who love free speech just as much as you do, then come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide variety of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&As, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high quality MP3. We've also got an Element group where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. Unlike Discord, it has full end-to-end encryption, is decentralized, and is 100% censorship free. You can also send voice notes as well as much larger audio and video files than you can on Discord. So come and sign up on Patreon. There's no contract, there's no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So I'll see you over there. I'm out.